Welcome to day 17 of our free sewing class. If you are new or you are just seeing this video, check my YouTube channel for day 1 to day 16 of this free sewing class. In today's class, we'll be drafting a basic bodice without that. Bodice is the upper part of a woman's dress. You know that part that is from the neck to the waist. That part is what we call bodice. So now we are going to learn how to draft a bodice without that. In the next class, we'll draft a bodice with that. All right, the first thing, I'll be using a pattern paper for this drafting. Now, for those that are afraid of pattern paper or drafting using pattern using is almost the same thing as using your fabric. Just assume this is your clothes and you fold it into two. The measurements we are going to need for this drafting is shoulder to shoulder, bust circumference, waist circumference, shoulder to waist, the armhole depth, or the bicep circumference. All right, let's start. The first thing I need to draw is a reference line. A reference line. This line is where I am starting from. That is why it is a reference line. From the reference line, I will measure my shoulder to waist measurement. I will put it. That is my half length. That is from the shoulder to my waist. Now I will add 1 inch allowance. For the measurement I'm using now is 16. That is 16. Then I will, instead of drawing my line on that 16, I will add 1 inch. That 1 inch is for sewing allowance. You know, I will sew the bodice on the shoulder, that is with ½ inch. Then whatever I'm joining to these bodies, I will use ½ inch to sew it also at the lower part. So that is why I added 1 inch seam allowance. So instead of marking 16, I marked 17. The next thing I will mark is 3 inches. After marking the 3 inches, I'll place my ruler on the 3 inches and mark 5 inches. From the 5 inches, I'll come down by 1½ inches. That is, I want to achieve shoulder slant or shoulder slope. In our previous class, I have already taught you what shoulder slope is. So, and I said if you don't measure your shoulder slope on your client, there is a way you can get it. So this is me getting my shoulder slope without measuring it on my client. Once you measure your 3 inches, you measure 5 inches, then you come down by 1.5 inches and draw a line. You see this line? That is where you take your customer's back measurement. So whatever the client's measurement is, you put it here, and the shoulder slant will work with it. All right, the next measurement is shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2. Whatever is your shoulder to shoulder measurement, you divide it by 2. In this case, I'm using 16. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. That was what I put in the first point. And this point too, the same 8. Because I want to draw a straight line, that's why I marked it in 2 places. So now I will draw a straight line. And what I want to achieve here is your armhole. That is the part where your sleeve, where your hand is coming out from. That is what we call armhole. So that is the 8, and I will just draw a straight line. Now you should have measured your armhole depth. That is you should know how to measure your armhole. We've taken a class on that. So whatever is your armhole, you input it on this straight line that I just draw. And I'm just trying to show you that if the back is maybe 15, you divide it by 2 and you mark that point. So even if I'm sewing for a 1-year-old baby, you see this 3, 5 and 1½ inches, I always put it for the shoulder slant. So now the next thing is to put my armhole. There are 2 ways to get your armhole. Is either you measure your armhole directly, divide it by 2 and put whatever it is, or you measure your biceps. You should know what biceps is, Once you measure the biceps, you divide your biceps by 2, and after dividing your biceps by 2, you add maybe 1 or 1.5 inches to it. Then you mark whatever it is as your armhole depth. Now the next measurement here is the bust divided by 4. The bust circumference divided by 4. That is what you are going to put. Bust circumference divided by 4 at that point. And I won't be adding seam allowance. If I want to add seam allowance, I'll just put 1 inch for seam allowance. But I'm not adding seam allowance to this pattern for now. Alright, the next measurement that I will put is my waist measurement divided by 4. The waist circumference divided by 4. That is what I'm going to put here. Waist circumference divided by 4. I'll put it, and I will join the 2 lines together. So after joining the lines, the next thing is to do my armhole curve. So I'll just curve it from the bust point to meet the line that is the armhole line, and that is what it is. That is what we have. And this is the basic bodies without that. We are still going to draft the one with that, and this is the simplest one you can draft. With time, as you go on in this sewing journey, you will get to know some other tricks that will make your pattern better. But I don't want to give you too much information at once, so let's take it one step at a time. Alright, so the next thing will be to cut out this pattern. But before I cut it out, I'll mark the neckline. For an adult pattern, you use 3 inches width by 3 inches depth. 3 inches by 3 inches. However, there are calculations you can use to get the accurate neck. But for now, just accept the 3 inches by 3 inches. Then with time, maybe at an intermediate level, you know how to do the calculation how to get each neckline for each person. But for now, 3 inches by 3 inches we do. Alright, so this is basically the front. The next thing is I'll cut it out, and I will use this to draft the back. We are almost done. Just stay with me. Alright, this is the front pattern. When you open it, you have the right and the left side of the front bodice. So because we folded it into 2, so assuming you are cutting it directly on your clothes, this is how you are going to fold it, and you draft everything I just drafted. That is how you are going to draft it. Alright, let me bring another pattern paper so that we can use it we can use the front to draft the back. The only difference between the front and the back will be the zipper allowance. You know that we are going to put zip at the center back. So at that center back there will be zipper allowance, and the neckline too will be different. Aside that, every other thing remains the same for now at beginners level. At intermediate level, we can now start talking about how to make the armhole of the front, how to shape it so that it won't be the same as that of the back. All right, this is me marking the zipper allowance. It depends on what you want, but I use 1.5 inches now as my zipper allowance. I use 1.5 inches. You can use 1 inch, you can use 2 inches. But for the purpose of this drafting, just 1.5 inches zipper allowance. So I'll just trace out every other thing, and I will cut it out. All right, I'm done tracing. Let's work on the neckline. The neckline here too will be 3 inches, that is the width, and the 1 inch depth. So I'll connect it, and I'll cut out the pattern. So this is the back pattern with a zipper allowance. So basically this is the simplest way to cut out your basic bodice. I said basic bodice is from the neck to the waist. So you can use your own measurement or your client's measurement at this stage, but today's homework is I want you to draft a basic pattern, a basic bodice pattern for your using your measurement. All right, I'm still cutting. Now, with the knowledge of these basic bodies, you can achieve a lot of things. You can do a lot of things. All right, let me cut out the neckline as well, and I will open the zipper side. You know, it's actually on fold, so you need to open it up. Especially if you are using a fabric, you need to open it up. So after opening, you have a 2, the back will be 2, the front will be 1, and you have 3 pieces all together. So that is all about basic bodies. It is simple and easy. If you don't understand, just watch this video once again and follow the step, follow the explanation step by step, and you'll get it. If you still have any doubts or any confusion, you can drop your comments and I will do my best to answer it. All right, so the next one will be the basic bodies with a dart. We'll do that in the next class. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in my next class. Don't forget, today is another day, tomorrow is another day of our 30 days free sewing class. I'll see you in the next lesson.